When I was 17, my parents disappeared without a word, left a note that said, "You'll figure it out." I slept in a storage unit, worked night shifts, and built a business from scratch. 12 years later, after I became successful, my sister and her wife showed up wanting to reconnect. Turns out, my parents had lied about me the whole time. When I got home that Friday, the first thing I noticed was the silence. No barking from Daisy. No car in the gravel driveway. No sounds from the barn. Just wind, and the way the screen door creaked as I stepped into the kitchen. There was a sticky note on the fridge. "You'll sort it out." No name. No explanation. Just 4 words in my mother's handwriting. I stood there staring at it, backpack still slung over one shoulder. I waited for a sound, my sister's voice yelling from her room upstairs, Dad stomping through the hall in his boots, anything. But there was nothing. I called out anyway. "Mom." No answer. "Lena." Still nothing. I checked every room in the house. The closets were empty. My dad's tools were gone from the shed. Even the framed family photo over the fireplace had vanished. All the drawers were open. My sister's clothes, her notebooks, even the string lights she hung on her wall gone. That night, I slept on the couch. I didn't know what else to do. I figured maybe, just maybe, they'd come back in the morning. Maybe it was a mix-up or a mistake or something. But the next day, someone knocked on the front door. An older guy in a flannel jacket, holding a clipboard and looking uncomfortable. "Saul?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm Tom. Your folks were renting this place from me. Lease is up. They ended it early. I came by to check the keys and give you a heads up. You've got 5 days to move out." I blinked at him. "What?" "They paid for the next week. But after that, well, I'm sorry, kid." I didn't cry in front of him. I waited until he left and then stood in the middle of the living room, shaking, my fist clenched so tight I could feel my nails dig into my palms. No note from my dad. No voicemail from my mom. Nothing from Lena. I tried calling, but all their phones had been disconnected. Facebook accounts? Deleted. It was like they'd fallen off the planet. By the 3rd night, I knew no one was coming back. I tried crashing at Jace's place, but his mom said I could only stay 2 nights, tops. Then I went to Mateo's, slept on his bedroom floor for a bit. I told him it was just temporary. I told everyone that. But after 2 weeks, they stopped answering my texts. Eventually, I scraped together enough money from odd jobs, raking leaves, moving furniture, cleaning stalls at the fairgrounds, and rented a storage unit out on Route 7. The guy at the counter didn't ask any questions. It was a 10 by 10 with concrete walls and a sliding door. No windows. But it locked. That was enough. I kept my duffel bag in the corner and laid out an old sleeping bag I found in the dumpster behind a hardware store. At night, I slept with my hoodie over my face to keep the light out. I washed up at the rec center. Ate dry cereal straight out of the box. No one knew. I didn't tell a soul. Because the second I did, it would be real. And if I let it become real, I didn't know how I'd survive. I started waking up before dawn because that's when the heat from the storage unit roof was still bearable. After sunrise, it turned into a tin box oven. I'd sneak out before the manager showed up, walk to the 24-hour gym off Main Street, and use the showers. Nobody questioned me because I swiped an old key fob off a lanyard someone left in the locker room weeks earlier. I'd wave it fast at the door reader and pray no one noticed. I kept my towel and shampoo in a grocery bag tied shut with a shoelace. Showering was the only time I felt human. After that, I'd head to the public library. The computers there had a 30-minute limit, but if you waited a bit, you could usually get another session. I applied for everything: dishwasher, stock boy, gas station attendant, janitor, even busboy at the Indian buffet downtown. I made a Gmail account just for job apps and checked it every hour. Most places never replied. Some said I needed a permanent address. One asked for a high school diploma. I didn't have that either. But I kept applying. I ate when I could canned beans, ramen, peanut butter with a plastic spoon. I bought a bulk pack of instant oatmeal from the dollar store and stole hot water from the gas station coffee machine. For a while, that was my breakfast and dinner. Lunch was whatever I could scavenge, sometimes half a sandwich tossed at the bottom of a trash bin behind the subway near the high school. I told myself it was fine. I was surviving. People didn't know. I made sure of that. I still brushed my teeth, still wore clean clothes, still nodded to people on the street like everything was okay. I told anyone who asked that I was crashing with a cousin. No one asked twice. Then one night, after applying for my 38th job, I wandered into this bar just off the interstate. I wasn't there to drink. I just needed a place to sit, to feel like I existed. I stood near the back where the lights were dim and watched the bartender curse out the dishwasher, who'd just quit mid-shift. "Useless," the guy muttered. "Every damn kid's allergic to hard work." I stepped forward before I could overthink it. "I'll do it." He turned to me. Grizzled, late 50s maybe, with one eye permanently half-closed like he was mid-squint. "You any good with your hands?" "Yes, sir." "You high?" "No." "You homeless?" I paused. "No." He studied me for a second. You show up tomorrow at 6. You don't flake, you don't steal, and you don't mouth off. We'll pay cash under the table. Sound good? I nodded. That was the first break I caught. The place was loud, greasy, and smelled like stale beer, but it was work. I scrubbed pans so caked with char they looked fossilized. The cooks barely acknowledged me except for Theo, the night shift guy who made burgers with 2 cigarettes tucked behind his ear. One night after closing, I sat down in the corner of the kitchen, too tired to move. You good, kid? Theo asked, wiping his hands. Just need a second. You can sleep in that booth if you want. Just for tonight. I nodded, trying not to cry. That night, I curled up under a dish towel and slept in that booth like it was a 5-star hotel. The next morning, I was back in the dish pit. Every dollar I made, I saved. No bus rides. No snacks. I bought a burner phone for job calls. I found free blogs on budgeting. I didn't even know how taxes worked, but I made a spreadsheet and started tracking every penny. Because this was my shot, and I wasn't going to waste it. The job at the bar kept me alive, but it wasn't going to get me out. I knew that early on. I needed something more, something steady, something that didn't wreck my back and cover me in grease every night. One Tuesday after my shift, I was wiping down the kitchen counter when a guy from the bar struck up a conversation. Big dude. Wore a reflective vest and a trucker hat. Ordered the same IPA every time he came in. You're the dishwasher, right? He asked. I nodded. You're quiet. But you work like hell. Thanks, I said, even though my hands were blistered and my shirt still stank of fryer oil. He tossed back the rest of his beer, then reached into his coat. I'm with a warehouse over on Tannersville Road. We need someone to help clear out an old lot. Nasty work, but it's cash, 2 days. Yeah, I'll do it. He grinned. Didn't even blink. I like that. That weekend, I showed up with work gloves and a busted pair of steel-toed boots I found at a thrift store. The lot was a mess, broken pallets, rusted shelving, mountains of dust. But I kept my head down and did the work. Fast. Neat. No complaints. By the end of the first day, one of the managers offered me a longer temp gig. I took it. That turned into another job, then another. I swept floors, unloaded trucks, stacked inventory, sorted returns. Every time someone needed an extra pair of hands, I raised mine. Within a year, I was juggling 3 temp gigs. I bought a cheap duffel bag to keep my clothes in and rented a room off a guy who worked nights and didn't ask questions. It wasn't much, a mattress on the floor, no AC, but it had a door and 4 walls. And after what I lived through, that felt like a mansion. The money was still tight, but I was surviving. I got a free trial to an online community college and started watching videos on warehouse management, logistics, inventory control. I didn't even realize how much I liked it until I caught myself reading supply chain blogs at midnight. When one of the warehouse supervisors asked me to train the new guy, I saw it as a test. I passed. 2 years later, I was doing freelance logistics gigs for smaller firms, setting up their inventory software, helping with shipping schedules, tightening their budget leaks. I charged less than the big guys, but I showed up on time, never missed a deadline, and didn't talk out of my ass. By 24, I had my own clients. By 26, I filed paperwork to form an LLC, Saul Griffin Solutions. The name sounded a little stiff, but I didn't care. It was mine. I moved into a tiny apartment above a bodega. Bought a second-hand Toyota with low mileage. I had a checking account, a tax ID, even a credit score I was starting to fix. At 28, I sat on my own couch, with a cold beer and a working air conditioner. For the first time since I was 17, I felt safe. And that scared me more than anything. It started with a podcast. Some small-time show out of Milwaukee, Resilience Hour, or something like that. They'd reached out after one of my clients mentioned me offhand. I almost turned it down, but the host was kind, and I figured, why not? I talked about starting with nothing, about being abandoned, about sleeping in a storage unit and washing up in locker rooms. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The story spoke for itself. The episode went viral within a week. Suddenly my inbox was full. Strangers thanking me for being honest. Business owners offering referrals. A guidance counselor from a high school in Missouri asked if I'd speak to her senior class over Zoom. I didn't know what to say, so I said yes. It felt good. Weird, but good. Like maybe I hadn't clawed out of the dirt just for survival, but for something more. Then I saw it. Subject, let's talk. From Mom. No name. No greeting. Just 5 words. You're still our son. Let's talk. No apology. No explanation. Just that. I stared at it for 5 minutes. Then 10. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then pulled back. I closed the laptop. An hour later, another message came in, this one from Lena. The subject line said, "Hi. Inside. We miss you. Can we fix this?" My chest went tight. I hadn't seen Lena since I was 17. She was 14 when they left, still a kid. I used to carry her on my shoulders at the county fair. I used to help her with math homework. And then she vanished like the rest of them. I didn't answer. Not for 10 days. I printed the emails, folded them, and brought them to therapy. My therapist asked what I felt. I said, numb. Mostly. Then angry. Then back to numb. He nodded. And what do you want to say? I sat in silence for a long time. Then I went home and opened my laptop. To Lena, I typed. It's been 12 years. What changed? I didn't hit send right away. I stared at those 6 words. I read them out loud. I looked at the date, 12 years to the week since I found that sticky note on the fridge. Then I clicked send. I didn't know what I was hoping for, but I knew this much. They had finally come looking, and they weren't going to like what they found. Lena replied the next morning. Her message was long, too long, for paragraphs of cautious warmth and vague memories. She told me she was sorry, said she didn't know everything, claimed she was only 14 back then and didn't have a choice. I thought we were going back for you, she wrote. Mom said it was temporary, that Dad had some work to finish, and we'd all be back in a couple weeks. Then we weren't. I read that part twice. She went on about boarding school, about how they had to move a lot, and how no one would tell her what really happened. I asked about you every year, Saul. Every birthday. Every time I saw an old photo. I always wanted to find you, but I didn't know how. I wanted to believe her. Part of me did. But another part, the one that had woken up shivering on concrete floors, wasn't so sure. I waited 3 days before I answered. Why now? I asked. Why not 10 years ago? Or 5? Why after a podcast goes viral? Her second reply was shorter. Because I didn't know how bad things were until I heard your voice. And I'll be honest, things aren't great on our end either. I don't expect anything from you. But I hoped we could talk. I didn't miss that line. Things aren't great. And I didn't reply. Instead, I printed that message too. Brought it to therapy. Sat on it for another week. Then, one morning, I got an envelope in the mail with no return address. Inside was a small stack of childhood photos, me and Lena on a tire swing, me in overalls holding a baby goat, all faded at the corners. There was a note tucked between them. We want to make amends. Love, Mom. No name. Just Mom. I didn't respond to her at all. But eventually, I agreed to meet Lena. 1 hour. Public place. Neutral ground. A cafe in downtown Roanoke. Broad windows, cameras, people everywhere. I told a friend where I'd be. Told my lawyer too, just in case. She was already there when I walked in, hair pulled back, hands wrapped tight around a coffee cup. When she saw me, she stood too quickly and knocked over the chair behind her. Sorry, she said, laughing nervously. God, you look so different. Taller, maybe. I didn't smile. You look the same. We sat. I waited. She took a breath. I'm sorry, Saul. I mean it. What they did, what we did, was wrong. I nodded slowly. Why didn't you say anything sooner? I tried, she whispered. When I was 17, I asked about you. Mom told me you were living with friends. Said you were fine. Said you didn't want to be found. I believed her. I shouldn't have. I studied her face. She looked tired. Genuinely tired, not the kind you fake when you want sympathy. Were you scared? I asked. Or just comfortable? She flinched. Both. We sat in silence. Finally, I said, your story doesn't match mine. They didn't just forget me. They erased me. The minute I was old enough to be left behind, they did it. I know, she said quietly. And I hate that. I sipped my coffee. It had gone cold. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. No money, she said quickly. I wrote you something. I didn't take it. Not yet. She looked down at her cup. They want to talk to you. I told them I'd ask. I didn't say you would. I exhaled through my nose. Let me guess. Things are rough. Money's tight. She didn't deny it. That was all I needed to hear. Apologies were nice. But timing said everything. And theirs was 12 years too late. 3 days after I met with Lena, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened with headphones on, pacing my living room with the volume low like the words might hurt more if I heard them out loud. It was my mother. Her voice was soft, theatrical, like she was already crying before the call even connected. Hi, sweetheart. I know you probably won't pick up, but I just want you to know we're sorry. We really are. Your father and I were in a bad place back then. Things were falling apart. We thought you'd be okay. You were always strong. She paused, sniffled. We didn't mean to hurt you, Saul. We ran out of options. That was it. No mention of the note. No admission of abandonment. Just a vague soup of excuses. I didn't call back. But the next day, I got an email from my father. The subject line was "Let's clear the air." It started polite. It ended with a request. We know we made mistakes. Life was hard, financially and emotionally. We lost the farm. We were ashamed. We knew you were resilient and would figure it out. Now we're struggling again, and we just hoped. If there's any way you could help, we'd be grateful. At the very bottom, he attached a scanned document, a medical bill with his name on it. For figures. Bold red due date. I didn't reply. I forwarded the message to my therapist. In the subject line, I typed, "There it is." Later that week, Lena texted me again. "They just want a conversation. That's all. Maybe not today, but someday." I replied, "No contact. No visits. No money." She waited a while, then wrote back, "You're being selfish. Family helps each other." That's when I blocked her number. The next day, I unblocked it. Just long enough to send one more message. I helped. For 17 years. Then I got left behind without a word. So don't talk to me about family. Not until you're ready to be honest. No reply. That night, I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at a childhood photo they'd mailed with the earlier letter. It was me at about 9, holding a carved pumpkin and grinning like nothing in the world could go wrong. I almost didn't recognize myself. Because the version of me in that picture didn't know what it meant to be disposable. They had tested the water, seen the podcast, realized I'd survived, and maybe, just maybe, I was doing better than them. So now they were circling back. With excuses. With stories. With bills. But I wasn't a scared kid anymore. I was a man who learned how to sleep with one eye open and still show up on time. I'd pulled myself out of a ditch they'd left me in. And the only thing I owed them was silence. I blocked them all. Phone numbers. Email addresses. Even old social media accounts I hadn't used in years. At first, there was peace. For a week or so, the silence almost felt like closure. But that was wishful thinking. It started with them showing up at my apartment building. The concierge called me from the front desk. "Mr. Griffin, your parents are here. They say it's urgent." My stomach dropped. "Don't let them up," I said. "Tell them I'm not available." That worked for the first time. The next time, they waited outside. I spotted them from the elevator, standing by the bike racks, Mom in some oversized sweater, Dad with his arms crossed like he had authority again. I walked the other way and exited through the garage. They called from payphones. Created new Gmail accounts with names like griffin.family.talks and just.1.chat. I blocked them all. Then came the fake emergency. Lena texted me from a new number. "It's Dad. Chest pains. They're at Carver Hospital. Please come." I paused, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I called Carver myself. After 20 minutes on hold, a nurse confirmed. No one by that name checked in today. They lied. About a heart attack. Just to get me in a room with them. That night, I put a chair against my front door. It didn't stop there. They started emailing my clients. A vague message here, a guilt-ridden anecdote there. Enough to make it weird, enough to make me look unstable if someone wasn't paying close attention. My attorney stepped in after I showed her the messages. "These are mild now," she said, scrolling through the threads. "But document everything. If this escalates, we'll have a case." I made a folder. Kept copies. Logged every contact attempt with dates and times. It felt cold, but necessary. Then things turned. One morning, I opened my inbox to find an email from my father titled Legal Notice. Inside was a wall of text, accusing me of defamation for the podcast. He claimed I'd misrepresented events, damaged his reputation, and embarrassed the family publicly. He ended it with a threat. "You have 72 hours to take the episode down, or we pursue legal action." I read it twice. Then I laughed. The podcast never even used my last name. And everything I said was true. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. Subject line, "They're losing it." She replied 2 minutes later. "Sit tight. They just made our case stronger." But the worst part, the part that pulled the breath from my lungs, came 2 days later. I was grabbing my mail when someone called my name. "Saul?" I turned. A woman stood there, holding a toddler on her hip. Blonde. Nervous. Late 20s. "I'm Claire," she said. "Lena's wife." My face tightened. "What do you want?" She hesitated. Looked down at the little girl. I didn't know. I swear. I didn't know anything. I said nothing. She shifted her daughter to her other side. "Lena told me bits and pieces over the years. But it never made sense. I thought your parents just had a falling out with you." "They didn't fall out," I said flatly. "They disappeared." "I know that now." Claire looked genuinely shaken. She pulled out her phone. "They lied to us," she said, voice trembling. "About you. About what happened. They told our daughter you were sick, unstable. Said you didn't want family. They made GoFundMe pages using your story. I only found out because I started digging after your podcast." My jaw clenched. Claire looked me in the eye. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. But I believe you now." And I could tell, from the way she was shaking, she was telling the truth. Finally, someone on the inside had cracked. And the lies were starting to rot from within. Claire didn't leave right away. We stood there awkwardly in the lobby while her daughter squirmed in her arms, reaching for the elevator buttons. I didn't invite her in. I didn't know her. But something in her eyes, shaky, wide, terrified, told me this wasn't just about guilt. She looked over her shoulder like she expected someone to follow her. Then she lowered her voice. They've been telling people you were mentally unstable, she said. That you stole from the family, ran away. That you threatened Lena when she was a teenager. My stomach turned. Claire opened her phone and pulled up a private Facebook group. I scanned the screen. A post from 5 years ago. We're heartbroken to have lost Saul to his demons. We've tried everything. Prayers appreciated. We're raising funds for Lena's therapy after years of trauma caused by his behavior. Over $3,200 raised. Dozens of comments. Some from family friends I hadn't seen since high school. I didn't know what to say. I just stared at it, the way you stare at a crash site. Claire kept going. There's more. Emails from your mom to old relatives. Screenshots. Lies stacked on lies. I can send it all to you. I thought you should know. I nodded slowly. Send it. She looked relieved. Later that night, I sat at my kitchen table reading through the email she forwarded. There were photoshopped messages, fake proof that I had stolen from a college fund, an entire narrative that painted me as some unstable, selfish ghost who abandoned his family out of spite. And then I found the GoFundMe campaign. Title: Help Our Daughter Heal from Family Trauma. In the description, they claimed I had emotionally manipulated Lena for years, left a trail of destruction, and cut off all communication despite our efforts. It raised nearly $7,800. The photo they used was of Lena at 12, sitting on the front porch of our old farmhouse. My arm was around her shoulder. I felt sick. I forwarded everything to my attorney. She called 5 minutes later. We need to talk, she said. This isn't just manipulation anymore. This is fraud. Identity misuse. Possibly defamation. I want it on record, I said. All of it. 2 days later, she arranged a formal meeting in her office with me, Claire, and Lena. Lena showed up pale. I sunken. She looked at Claire like she was scared of her now. But Claire just sat straight and started reading from a list. You told me Saul was dangerous, she said. You told me he threatened to burn the house down when he was 16. You said he stole from Mom's purse, crashed Dad's car, disappeared. None of that was true, was it? Lena's voice cracked. I didn't know what else to say. Yes, you did, Claire snapped. You said what your parents taught you to say. You lied to me. And you let me lie to our kid. Lena turned to me. I'm sorry. I don't have an excuse. I let them control the story. I didn't know how to stop. I sat in silence, my hands clasped tight in my lap. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But mostly, I just wanted it all to end. We're moving out, Claire said. I don't want them near us anymore. That night, I cleared out my guest room and helped carry their bags in. I gave up my office so their daughter could have a real bedroom with windows and a nightlight. For the first time, my apartment felt like a home. A strange one, stitched together with trauma and apology, but real. And just when I thought we could breathe, a text came through. Blocked number. No name. Just a photo of Claire's daughter walking into my building. And beneath it, 6 words. We know where you are now. I stared at the screen, my jaw locked. It wasn't over. Not even close. The morning of the court hearing, I stood outside the courthouse, clutching a manila folder of evidence with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. Not because I was afraid of them anymore, but because I knew what was about to happen would be permanent. This wasn't a conversation. It was a line in the sand. Lena stood next to me, her hands jammed into her coat pockets, eyes fixed on the pavement. Claire paced back and forth with their daughter strapped to her chest in a baby carrier, quietly humming to keep the little one calm. Our attorney, a no-nonsense woman named Dee, nodded as she joined us. You ready? I nodded. Let's end this. Inside the courtroom, my parents were already seated, no lawyer in sight. My mother wore a gray sweater and too much makeup, like she was trying to look frail. My father looked annoyed, like someone had dragged him from something more important. I knew that face. He wore it whenever he was about to lie. The judge entered. We all stood. Saturday. Then it began. Dee didn't waste time. She presented the emails, the fake GoFundMe screenshots, the texts, the photos. She highlighted the lie about the medical emergency, the unauthorized fundraising using my name, the repeated harassment, including the photo of Claire's child walking into my building. My father tried to interrupt. The judge silenced him. Then it was Lena's turn. She stood up and, with her voice trembling but clear, told the judge how her parents had manipulated her since she was a teenager. How they rewrote the truth until she couldn't tell fact from fiction. How they used guilt as currency and fear as a leash. My mother dabbed fake tears with a tissue. My father rolled his eyes. When it was my turn, I kept it simple. I was 17 when they left me. No warning. No explanation. No help. I slept in a storage unit for a year. I didn't ask for anything. Not then. Not now. But when I told my story, truthfully, they tried to silence me. They lied, stalked me, and endangered a child. All to protect a version of themselves that doesn't exist. The judge nodded slowly, took a moment, then turned to my parents. Do you have anything to say? My father stood. This is all a misunderstanding, he said. We've always loved our children. But Saul, he's always been difficult. Dramatic. He's twisting everything. My mother chimed in. He's just angry. We never meant to hurt him. We're family. We should fix this, not tear each other apart. The judge leaned forward. Ma'am, you used your son's name to solicit donations. You sent threatening messages. You showed up uninvited to his home and workplace. That is not family. That is harassment. He turned to the bailiff. Restraining orders are granted for Mr. Saul Griffin, Ms. Lena Griffin, Ms. Claire Walters, and the minor child. All forms of contact are to cease immediately. Violations will be prosecuted. Bang. Gavel down. We stood. It was over. Almost. As we exited the courtroom, my mother brushed past and whispered to me, her voice thick with hurt. Don't you hate us that much? I stopped walking, looked her dead in the eye. No, I said. I feel nothing anymore. And I meant it. Back in the parking lot, I helped Claire buckle her daughter into the car seat while Lena quietly cried behind the wheel. We were free. Legally, at least. But later that night, as I closed the curtains in my apartment, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No message. Just a single photo. Claire's daughter, asleep in her car seat. And beneath it, for words. This isn't over yet. I arranged the meeting at a coffee shop in the middle of nowhere, neutral ground. 45 minutes outside of Roanoke, past a line of dying strip malls and long-forgotten gas stations. I chose the place for one reason. There was nothing nearby worth coming back for. I sent one text. One meeting. 1 hour. No lawyers, no games. After this, we're done. They agreed. I got there early. Sat at a corner table facing the door, a black coffee cooling in front of me. I watched them pull into the parking lot in a rusted Honda Civic, both of them looking smaller than I remembered. Time hadn't been kind. They walked in like strangers. My father wore a faded flannel shirt and a hat he didn't take off. My mother clutched a purse like it might save her from drowning. They didn't order anything. Just sat down across from me like we were negotiating a ceasefire. For a minute, no one spoke. Then my mother leaned forward, her voice soft and trembling. Thank you for agreeing to this. I nodded once. Nothing more. She looked down at her hands. We've made mistakes. We know that. My father cleared his throat. You don't understand how bad things were, Saul. We lost the farm. We were drowning in debt. I had creditors banging on our door. So you left, I said flatly. With a 14-year-old and no warning. You left a 17-year-old alone with nothing but a sticky note. They both flinched. We thought, my mother began, but I cut her off. No, you didn't think. You decided. And now you're here because I'm not struggling anymore. Silence. My father looked at me, jaw tight. We were wrong, but we're still your parents. I leaned forward, my voice low. You're not. Not anymore. This meeting isn't for reconciliation. It's a warning. My mother's eyes welled with tears. Saul? I raised a hand. If you contact me again, through family, friends, fake accounts, I'll go public. I'll name names. I'll expose every lie, every scam, every message you ever sent. My father scoffed. That's a threat. No, I said calmly. That's a boundary. My mother reached across the table. I didn't move. Please, she whispered. We just want to fix things. You had 12 years to fix things, I said. This is how it ends. You don't get to rewrite the story now. She pulled her hand back like I burned her. My father stood first. You've changed, he muttered. I had to. They left without another word. I sat for a while, watching them disappear down the highway. Then I texted Lena. All done. That night, I walked into the hotel room Claire and Lena had rented while waiting for a longer-term lease. Claire was reading on the bed, their daughter sitting cross-legged on the floor, building something out of blocks. The little girl looked up when she saw me. Uncle Saul, she chirped. That word hit me like a freight train. No hesitation. No second-guessing. Just family. I sat beside her and helped her build a crooked tower that leaned a little too far to the left. She giggled every time it collapsed. Lena came in from the balcony, quiet, cautious. How'd it go? It's over, I said. She nodded. Didn't push. Just came over and hugged me. It was the first time in years that I didn't tense at someone's touch. Eventually, they moved into an apartment 3 floors below mine. Sunday dinners became a thing. Sometimes just pasta and store-bought garlic bread, sometimes takeout when no one felt like cooking. The little girl called me Uncle Saul like she'd always known me. One night, after everyone left, I sat alone in my kitchen with the lights off and my phone buzzing with photos from Lena, her daughter in a new dress, Claire laughing behind her. And I realized something. I didn't heal because they apologized. I healed because I made it through without them. Because I built a life they couldn't take credit for. One block at a time. And now? Now I was building something better. Family, real family, wasn't about blood. It was about who shows up when you're broken and says, you're not alone anymore. And this time, I wasn't.